Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of One More Thing. I'm Pastor Adam, and today we're a little late. This is Xavier Leeson, who got to share a message in church a couple weeks ago, and just timing didn't work out as far as being able to sit down and do this. But it was such a good message. The topic was really good that I feel like it was perfect for a One More Thing to kind of expand on, or maybe to because it's been shared that you really wanted to do a multi-week kind of thing because there's just so much that you've had with this. So this is a perfect opportunity to kind of be able to share that. So what are some things that you have that you didn't get to share that Sunday, or maybe you want to expand on?
I mean, there's a lot of things. I mean, I could probably talk about this for like a day straight. Like, what I did that Sunday was probably only like 20% of that entire book. And like every page is filled with new information that I've never learned before. But one of the biggest things that I'd like to point out is just like dating, or like evolutionists. They believe that everything's been the same ever since the beginning. So they base all like the dating, like carbon dating, and there's some other forms of dating off of the fact that everything's been consistent from the beginning of time. So like carbon dating, they take like the carbon or like how much carbon is in it, and then they backtrack and look and see how many years it's been since it was supposedly created, or when it first became into the world, to date it. But that wouldn't make sense if the world has been inconsistent in that department, sort of thing. So like if it's been changed, there is no way to actually factually give an accurate date of how old something is if something's constantly changing. So evolutionists believe that everything's been consistent since the beginning of time, which just is inaccurate. There's actually some things like the sun is shrinking 5 feet per hour. So if that was true since the beginning of time, then we would literally have no sun. There would be no life on Earth. But they just ignore that and are like, yeah, it's been the same since the beginning of time, even though that wouldn't make sense.
Well, I think that's kind of funny because when, being labeled and following the thoughts of an evolutionist, where we have changed and adapted. You believe in change, you believe in that. Yet you're saying that there's a lot of things that believe they're never changing. So it's kind of.
Yeah, it's very interesting to me how evolutionists believes in things, because it seems like they just pick and choose what they want to believe in.
And wasn't, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe you read this too, but I thought there's something too about, because you're talking about the sun, where, was it the moon and Earth or something like that, where if you were to trace back the rotational or orbiting, like it would, if it's supposedly moving farther away, well, then if you reversed it, wouldn't it have been like on top of us at some point or something like that? So it's kind of like, well, what is it? Which is it? You know what I mean? So, it just struck in my mind.
I like how you mentioned the moon, because, so you know how there's dust on the moon? So when we were going to the moon, they were worried about there being too much dust to the point where they would just like fall through it. So like they theorized that there was going to be a ton, since the Earth is supposedly 500 million years old or whatever. So they assumed that it was just going to be absolutely covered and they weren't going to have any flat footing. But then they get on there and they're just absolutely fine. There's like maybe like 2 inches of dust.
Yeah.
So that just instantly contradicts
assuming
it.
we actually went to the moon. But that's a whole other episode. So.
That's a conspiracy theory. We're not talking about that one today. I'll try to find that word. I think it's like ultratarianism, something like that, that describes the belief that nothing's changed since the beginning of time. But I might have to uniformitarianism, I think is how you say it. Belief that the same natural laws and processes that operate in nature now have always operated in the same order and manner since the beginning of time.
Everything's uniform. Everything's
absolutely nothing's changed. Which, knowing, well, from a Christian perspective, we know that that's not true. Because as soon as sin entered the world, we know that everything changed drastically. Like the Garden of Eden, for example. So that was like perfect climate. Just think of like the perfect climate. But now we have to deal with humidity, which is extremely annoying. And then we get crazy storms, like tornadoes, earthquakes. None of those were existent at the time of the Garden of Eden. So you got to think of a perfect like atmosphere, perfect weather. But now we got all these different things that point to the fact that the world has changed. But they're gonna ignore it.
And
Like
we
I
live in
said.
the Middle Ohio Valley where we
Yeah.
get all that in one day sometimes.
Yup.
The varying
All
weather.
kinds of things. All the fun stuff you could say. There is a quote by this guy named that was in the book by Professor D.M.S. Watson. I'm not sure exactly who he is, but he was in the book that I read. His quote was, "Evolution is a theory universally accepted not because it can be proven by logically coherent evidence to be true, but because the only alternate special creation is clearly incredible." So I like this quote because it describes how, like, they don't believe in miracles. Scientists don't want to believe in miracles. They hear a miracle and they're like, "Oh, that's got to be fake, right?" They don't want to believe in like an all-powerful being that can do whatever he wants because he's just all-powerful. So they just try to go out of their way to find ways to theorize things that just simply aren't true or backed up by facts.
Yeah, and I find that to be true as well, just in general, because if there's anything that someone doesn't like or agree with, they always try to find either something the opposite or something else that will keep them from going that way.
Yeah,
I mean,
being
we
wrong.
all do that for everything. So if it's not this, it's that. And so especially when it comes to, like you're saying, something that is so transcendent, like God and him creating everything, that's a big thing. So it's understandable how people who wouldn't be accepting of it would then want to go and create or drive harder into the other area, which would be evolution. Yeah.
So another thing that I was a huge fan of when I was reading is, so there's certain laws in like our world that the scientists go by like a lot. So I think there's 3 laws of thermodynamics, but there's only 2 mentioned in the book, and this like specifically contradicts evolution. So first law of conservation. I can't speak. Nothing can be created or destroyed. So this kind of contradicts evolution because it's describing that no matter can just be like created instantly. Well, I guess this actually contradicts the Big Bang Theory because it just can't instantly poof into existence like they say. And then the second law, the law of energy decay, stated that in all natural processes there is a net loss of energy which results in entropy and decay. It declares that any system left to itself will become disordered and eventually run down and die. So like evolutionists believe that everything should be gradually getting better rather than decaying, like that law of thermodynamics is saying. So that itself contradicts evolution as a whole, but they're just ignoring that law. That's a law.
Yeah.
Rather than, like, they believe in laws or they believe in theories, but they won't believe in laws apparently.
Yeah, they want to stay fluid. They want to stay, I mean, and it makes sense that if you're trying to, go that direction and believe in that, you have to remain that way to make it more sense. But, to us and to other people, it's easy to view that, well, that's just an easy cop-out. I mean, being able to go back and forth and be kind of wishy-washy, so to speak, it's a lot easier to kind of accept things as they are or whatever than it is if it was black and white or there's something definitive, especially if it's something definitive that goes against, what you think and feel and what you can and can't do or feel like you can and can't do, like Christianity or following the Lord. So, it just, I've always felt that same way too, that it's always, they just hide behind that as a way to be able to flip back and forth.
Yep.
And then if they don't have an explanation for their current change, it's just easy to say, well, we'll figure it out, and they're just trying to find ways to connect dots that don't need to be connected.
Yep.
But
they always try to find a way to avoid it.
Yeah. And then in there, like, it's easy to, I feel like the trend too for those people is if they can't explain something, they have a a reason why they can't explain it. I can't. I feel like there's something
Yeah.
out there. I just can't think of the top of my head. But it's just like, you hear that if they can't explain something, then they have their own comeback for
some
that,
excuse or
that apparently will be good enough as an answer. But
yeah, I agree.
So was there anything else that really stuck out to you about what because you did a lot of research, you read a lot of books, and you pulled a lot of that information from all of that, and coincided it with your own knowledge and belief and study of the word and stuff, which I thought you did a really good job with. And so was there anything in that kind of finding too that kind of stuck out that you didn't get a chance to kind of go over?
I was kind of disappointed I didn't get to mention like the Noah's Ark, because that's like the main point of that book was, I think it's Noah's Ark and its proofs and effects is what it was called, I think. So the entire book is just based off the Noah's Ark. So my original thought was I didn't really think of that, but I was thinking about just covering Noah for a message and the Ark, and then how it all shows up in our world and our society and stuff, and then maybe do another one about evolution specifically, because those are two really big topics. So Noah's Ark, so that's like probably one of the most disputed stories in the Bible, just because it's so like significant and like crazy. Like it's like literally a fairy tale story sort of thing where people probably don't think it's real. I had a buddy. Well, I don't know if I'd really call him my buddy, because he was, but in high school, I was like, yeah, I believe everything in the Bible except for Noah's Ark and the flood. And I was like, okay. But I definitely think that's one of the harder things to believe in the Bible, because it's just like a worldwide flood is really hard to comprehend to people.
But you even mentioned it, I think, that, and this falls into that, is that there's so much in other history that mentions it.
Yeah.
Or there's so much other proof or kind of evidence that points to there was. I believe even scientists and evolutionists have come out and said that they believe some massive. Now, will they? They dance around that very carefully, right? Because they don't want to feel like they, are accepting in that. But I think I've heard, and I might be mistaken, that it's recorded in other parts of history and stuff like that. So, and I think that's that was you bringing that up that Sunday was so true, is that there's so much in other cultures' history referencing Jesus or referencing other things. And I look at that with, because I love Old Testament battles, David and all that. I mean, you can find those battles and those mentions of those battles in other cultures' history. Some, because some of those cultures were obliterated by God back then, so thank the Lord. But what I mean? But there's some others that have survived that have kind of some recording on some level of those individuals or those battles. And so I think that's so true, that if other histories have something mentioned of it or recorded, then that's got to hold weight. That's got to mean something. Even as something as, because I believe they have records of some type of massive flood. So that's got to lend to, even though it does seem kind of fantasy, but Noah's Ark being true. And that's such a, it kind of would have been cool if you would have done that, because I think that's headlines right now, right? There's a lot. I see a lot of stuff pop up about them thinking they found it. Stuff like that. So it's like culturally relevant right now, and so, that good or bad, right? Like, where is it going to go? Is it going to really help prove, or is it going to disprove? I don't know, but
well, I feel like either way, even if we find proof, there's always going to be someone that's going to deny it. Some scientist is going to be like, "Oh yeah,
that's not the Ark. That's a Viking warship or something."
Something stupid. But specifically for the Ark, they've said that there's, in the book, they mentioned 3 different like stories. No, not 3, 8. 8 different stories of them finding a Ark. In like some mountain range, but there has been one recently, specifically in Turkey, that seems really likely that it's specifically the Ark. But there's like a multitude of things that prove, or from a Christian perspective, that the flood happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like the biggest thing is the way the continents are shaped, because we know that we were once all one big continent, and a good way to explain how we separated is just a massive flood.
Mm-hmm.
But they're obviously going to come up with other ideas as to why that happened. And then the sedimentary rock. That's 90% of the earth is covered in that. And what is the best way to make sedimentary rock? A bunch of water being flown through all the area across the earth. And all the fossils, archaeological finds kind of points to a flood. Like just the layering that it has on the earth points to the fact that it was just rushing of water, and all the fossils or distinct animals, not distinct, dead animals were getting all spread around.
Yeah.
And stuff.
Yeah, and I mean, if you look at the scripture, and only a certain amount of animals made it, so the rest have got to die, so they're going to get separated.
Yeah.
And I know too that going back to kind of questioning or disproving the carbon dating type of stuff is that, there's been stuff found on this layer, and they'll date the fossil itself, and make it the million-year-old type of thing. But then when you do the carbon dating on the outside around it, well, that layer is only a couple hundred years old.
Exactly.
And it's supposed to be like way down. It's okay. Which is right or wrong here? You know what I mean? Is it the dating of the fossil or the dating of the soil around it? And so there's a lot of those moments where things don't quite line up the way that they claim or believe it should. So
one of the things they found was like a hammer. So that's obviously a human made that. And they dated that all the way back to 500 million years ago. And I can't remember the exact date. Like, I think humans are recent. So we were definitely, according to them, we were definitely not 500 million years old. And then they found a skeleton, and that one was 300 million years ago. And I don't know exactly what date they put the humans at, but we were definitely, they don't put us 300 million years old.
Well, yeah. And where does that fit in that we made the switch from apes to you know what I mean, like when do they I thought they had a date for that, but it doesn't sound like it coincide with that. So I mean, that, like you said, we could go on for days, but that's good stuff. And hopefully you do get an opportunity to kind of share again, because it's obviously you're passionate about this and have so much to kind of to share. And I think that's kind of stuff that we need to be aware of. Even like me, like even today, like I'm saying stuff that I've heard and read and things like that, but we also have to be able to discern that to be true and not just kind of talk to talk. So it's good to get that information out. It's good for us to not question in a bad way, but just question enough that we be able to learn and get a clear answer based upon his word, right? Not like scientists or of man. So well, thanks, Xavier, for taking this time, and like I said, I hope we get to hear more of you. So thank you guys so much for tuning in. And if you missed the message that Xavier did, you can go back and find it on YouTube or Facebook, on our YouTube page and things like that, and kind of find that sermon. And it's the facts. Was that the title of your message? You should be able to see a thumbnail of it and stuff. So take a look on it, check it out, and hope to you come back to this and it intrigues you to learn more. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll catch you next time.